Hi, this is Michaela and Brianna from St Giles Church, Tattenhoe, and today we're going to be singing Who Put the Colours in the Rainbow with a PowerPoint twist. Who put the colour in the rainbow? Who put the salt into the sea? Who put the corn into the snowflake? Who made you and me? Who put the hump upon the camel? Who put the neck on the giraffe? Who put the tail upon the monkey? Who made the hyenas laugh? Who made whales and snails and quails? Who made hogs and dogs and frogs? Who made bats and rats and cats? Who made everything? Who put the gold into the sunshine? Who put the sparkle in the stars? Who put the silver in the moonlight? Who made Earth and Mars? Who put the scent into the roses? Who taught the honeybees to dance? Who put the tree into the acorn? Surely can't be chance. Who made seas and leaves and trees? Who made snow and winds that blow? Who made streams and rivers flow? God made all of these. Who made seas and leaves and trees? Who made snow and winds that blow? Who made streams and rivers flow? God made all of these.
Hi there everyone. The Message Church team is here and looking forward to sharing with you again. We are Anne, Barry, Linda, Lynn and me, Alison, and this time we're welcoming Judy and another Anne to be part of it all. Thank you so much again to Brianna and Michaela who put together the song and the pictures at the start of this session. Thank you too to a number of people who've helped supporting behind the scenes. You know who you are. And yet again, we're very grateful to Paul, who pulls everything together on the technical side. So what's today's session all about? We're getting ready to get ready. We're preparing to be prepared. What does this mean? Well, here we are, November the 15th. We're just 2 weeks away from Advent Sunday, when we start getting ready to celebrate Christmas, the birth of Jesus, God with us. Advent. We might be looking forward to opening Advent calendars, one day at a time from the 1st of December to Christmas Eve, or lighting a candle each Sunday on an Advent crown. Advent is about waiting, about getting ready for Christmas. First of all, here's something practical for you that Linda's going to show us.
Thank you, Alison. Now today, I thought that as it was halfway between All Saints' Day and Advent, and when we're all together, we normally eat together. So I'm going to make mince pies in preparation for Christmas. So the recipe will be on the website so that you can follow that. There's a couple of different ways of making your mince pies using either a shortcut pastry or you can use a biscuit-based pastry. So I will put both on the website. First, assemble all your ingredients and then we can make the mince pies. I've put all my ingredients in a mixing bowl, and I've also greased some bun tins. I hope to make about 18 mince pies, so I've greased 18 of my bun tins. Mix all your ingredients together until you've got them all looking like this. Have your mince ready and your cutters so that you can cut your circles out to go in your bun tins. Don't forget you will need one big circle and a slightly smaller one for the lids. Add a little drop of water, a little bit at a time, and make a dough like this. Then you can start to roll out and press out your circles. I like to put a glaze on the top of my mince pies, so I have used milk, but you can use either milk or an egg. Then make 2 little slits in each mince pie to let the steam out from the actual mince, and then cook in your oven at the appropriate temperature. These mince pies are now ready to cool, and once they're cooled I should put them in boxes and put them in the freezer ready for Christmas.
Thanks very much, Linda. You might be waiting for your mince pies, but I tell you what, I've got mine here. Have you got yours here, the rest of you? Oh, I'm not going to wait any longer for my mince pie. Lovely.
Thank you so much to Linda for all of that. We've got another quite big idea here to share with you. Something you could be doing during Advent. It may be a new idea for you. It's called a Jessie tree. A what? A Jessie tree. Jessie, that's spelt J-E-S-S-E. He was the father of King David in the Bible. They were key people. They were key people in the family tree of God's people. So here is what a Jessie tree is all about. It's a tree to which you can add an item a day all through Advent to tell the story of the family tree of God's people. It often starts with creation, and then it travels all through the Bible, leading up to the birth of Jesus and Christmas. Jessie trees go back a long way, many hundreds of years. Some of the early ones can be seen in carvings and tapestries, and there are also some in stained glass windows in churches and cathedrals. Way, way back, when everyday people like you and me were not taught to read and write, pictures were a great way of telling a story. The Jessie tree pictures were a way for people to learn about the Bible and the family of God, all the way from creation to the Christmas story. What we're going to be doing is this. Each of us has prepared 4 items to go on the tree, and we're each going to show you what we have made and share some words about the people on the items that are represented. Perhaps after this session, you might like to make a tree too. I wonder which people you will choose. You can use whatever you've got to hand. For example, you could use a collection of long twigs in a pot, or you might have a small tabletop tree. If you have a look online, you'll find lots of information and ideas about the things that you could make and put on your tree. There are short Bible readings available too, so you could share these with your family and friends. Don't worry about remembering it all. At the end of this session, you'll see a list of the things that we've made and the members of the family tree of God's people who we've celebrated on our tree, so you can check them out if you want to do that. Also, because you can look back at this recording at any time, you can pop back and check things if you want to. So, today is about the family of God's people and making a Jessie tree to help us all learn more. This is about getting ready to get ready, about preparing to be prepared.
Creation. Can you imagine a confused mess, a great noise, and darkness all around? That's how the Bible describes the beginning of everything. And then God brought light, and quiet and beautiful world took shape. Adam and Eve. Then God placed people in this beautiful garden he'd made, where they lived in harmony with each other and with God. But people learned to be mean. They learned to hurt each other and to blame each other for their mistakes. It looked like it was all going wrong, and the next generation was threatened. Noah and Naamah. Such big floods as people never before had seen in the whole world. But Noah and Naamah and all their family went into a great big ark, and they saved all the animals. What a squash it must have been. And when it was all over and the water was back in the right places in the sea and the lakes, they saw a great big rainbow, and they knew that the next generation was safe. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarah thought they were too old to have children, but three messengers from God, told them that they would have a son. And eventually they'd have more children than all the stars in the sky. Of course, that was an exaggeration. But Sarah had a boy they called Isaac, and the next generation was safe. The moral of this story? Listen carefully when messengers from God speak, because you never know what's going to happen next. I'm going to show you how I made the tree for the Garden of Eden for Adam and Eve. So I've started with 2 circles, one slightly smaller than the other, stuck them together. Then for the tree as you can see is made up of triangles, and I've chosen lots of different scraps of material in blues and silvers and greens, as you can see. And as long as you've got straight edges to begin with, or 2 straight edges to begin with, you just cut a triangle. So cut triangles in all sorts of shapes of triangle, and lay them out in the pattern or the order that you'd like them in, and then stick them onto your disc, starting at the bottom. When you've done that, a small disc for the sun, and slip it in wherever you think is appropriate. And then you'll have a really rather nice decoration to hang for the Jessie tree, or indeed if you want to use it to make Christmas cards.
Isaac and the ram. Now Abraham was so proud of his only son Isaac. Can you imagine that he thought God asked him to sacrifice his only son? This was terrible, but Abraham was determined to do it. He'd already built the altar when he saw a ram caught in a bush nearby, and God said to him, "Isaac must live. Use the ram instead." And the next generation was safe. Jacob and the ladder. Jacob started life by cheating his older brother Esau out of his inheritance. Esau was so cross, Jacob ran away to save his life. One night, in the middle of nowhere, Jacob dreamed of angels climbing up and down a ladder, just where he was sleeping. Jacob knew he had to change his ways, and the next generation was safe. Joseph and the coat. Joseph had 11 brothers, but he thought he was better than all of them. He was his dad's favourite, and he was given a special coat, much better than all the others. And Joseph behaved like a spoilt brat. His brothers decided to get rid of him and sold him as a slave. Very drastic action, and the generation was in danger. But Joseph was clever and ended up as the Pharaoh's chief food bloke, and even helped out his family to survive the dreadful famine they all suffered. He made friends with his brothers too, and the next generation was safe. Miriam and the basket in the reeds. Baby Moses survived only because his big sister Miriam helped his mother build a waterproof basket for him, because they were afraid of the Pharaoh. Moses floated right into Pharaoh's household and grew up good and strong, and the next generation seemed safe. Here's one way of making a Jacob's ladder. I took 4 lolly sticks, and I took 2 of them to be the main up and down parts, and then I took the other 2 lolly sticks, I cut each of them in half, and with the 4 pieces that I then had from that, I stuck them across the 2 long pieces, so that I had 4 steps or struts across the ladder. Quick tip, do use strong glue, because you don't want it falling apart. Of course, I've used lolly sticks, but you could use other things. You could use twigs, you could use pieces of card, you could use drinking straws. Have a look, see what you've got around the house that somebody would let you use, and have fun making a Jacob's ladder.
But Moses got into trouble and had to run away to save himself. He was surprised to meet God in a burning bush, and God sent him back into Egypt to save the people. On the way to the promised land, high on a mountain, Moses received the Torah from God to show the way for people to live together, with love, with respect, and with care. And the next generation was safe. Hannah had no children, and she was very sad when she became too old to have any. She spent all the time she could praying at the temple. There the priest told her that she was to have a baby, and Hannah gave him the name Samuel, which means God heard, and the next generation was safe. When Samuel was old enough, he went to live in the temple. One night he thought he heard the old priest calling him, but the priest said, "Not me." It was God calling Samuel, calling him to be a judge and a prophet, calling people to listen to God. And the next generation was safe. Ruth was very sad when her husband died, but she loved her mother-in-law, Naomi. When Naomi moved, Ruth stayed with her, although they were very poor. It looked like the next generation was in danger. A kind farmer in her new country let Ruth gather leftover food from his field and saw how hard she worked. He fell in love with Ruth, and they had a family, and the next generation was safe. Perhaps you've collected blackberries, conkers, or pretty autumn leaves when you're out for a walk. With the leaves I collected, we tried to show what farmers are collecting from the fields right now. I hope you can see potatoes, a pumpkin, squash, some cabbages and some apples. People are still needed to collect a lot of the food that we eat today.
And now Jesse. The family tree is named after him, and a quieter fellow you'd hardly find. We don't know much about him. He was a sheep farmer and lived in Bethlehem. Now that is familiar to us. He had many sons, 8 sons. God told Samuel to visit Jesse to anoint the next king of Israel, and no one thought it would be the youngest who was out looking after the sheep. Can you guess who that might be? It was David, and the next generation was safe. David was the youngest, David was strong. David loved his music. He'd play his harp, singing the most beautiful songs to praise God. David was also faithful to God. Well, most of the time. When he was king, he sometimes forgot to be honest and true. He was sad when his first child died and the family tree was coming to an end. But Solomon was born, and the next generation was safe. When Solomon became king, he thought long and hard about what he really wanted. Honesty and truth are what he asked for, and his fame spread far and wide. But when he became rich, when he became famous, he forgot about honesty and love. He turned from God. He turned from the people, and the next generation was threatened. Then there were the people of Nineveh. Nobody thought they were God's people, but God loved them and wanted them to change. But Jonah thought, no, they can stew in their own juice. I'm not going near. But he couldn't escape, even when he jumped from a ship into the deep, deep sea. God sent a great fish, and it scooped him up to save Jonah. Finally, he went to tell the people to turn back to God. And do you know what? They did. Amazing! And the next generation was safe. The symbol for David is the harp, and I'm going to show you how I made this. First of all, I made a template out of simple card. I managed to copy one from a picture I found on the internet. And then I copied it onto stronger card to keep its shape. I coloured in the background, and you can decorate it however you feel you'd like to. On this one, I've done wiggly lines and dots with a few stars, and I've started to do this one with diamonds and other shapes. You can do anything that you would like to do. Feel free to colour it however you would like, and spend as long as you'd like doing it. When you finish that, it's time to put the strings on. Now I've used some embroidery thread actually, but you could use some string or elastic bands or something like that. And if you tape it to the back and pull it tight, tape it at the bottom and then back up to the top. I've done 5 strings on mine. If you don't want to tape it, you can perhaps do what I've done here, which is make a hole in the card and sew it through, but taping it might be easier without using a needle. Once you've done that, it's time to put something on it to hang it. Now I've used thread again, but you could use ribbon. I always keep old bits of ribbon just to use on, for different things, or string, whatever you feel like using. There you are. There's David's harp.
To go onto our Jessie tree is Esther, and she lived a very long way from home in a Jewish community, and all of the people in that community were really scared because the locals wanted to get rid of them. And then, much to her surprise one day, the king chose her as his queen. She was faithful, she was clever, and she wouldn't let the king or any of his soldiers hurt any of her people. She became powerful and influential, and she made sure that the next generation was safe. Then we come to Elizabeth. Elizabeth was married to Zechariah, and they thought they were too old to have any children. But one day the angel Gabriel came to them and told them to get ready to be parents. Surely not, they said. Aren't we both too old? Never too old, said Gabriel. His name will be John. the one who announces Jesus. And the next generation was safe too. I wonder, did you know? Angels come in all shapes and sizes, but they all announce God's will to people. So, after having scared Elizabeth and Zachariah to death, Gabriel also came to Mary and told her she was going to give birth to God's son. What a shock! But Mary believed him, and eventually so did Joseph. Now at first, Joseph wasn't sure why he should look after Mary's baby. It wasn't his child. But then Gabriel came to him in a dream this time and reminded him that God loved all children, but Mary's baby was going to be someone extra special. And then Joseph suddenly remembered Jesse, Abraham, and all the others that God had looked after that are already on our tree. And he realised that God was coming to live with them all in Jesus, who was about to be born. To make your angel Christmas tree decoration, you're going to need 5 strips of white paper or card, all 2 centimetres, one 9 centimetres long, one 18 centimetres long, one 10 centimetres long, and 2 15 centimetres long. You're also going to need scissors, glue, ribbon, and this is what you're going to make. First, glue the ends of the 9 centimetre and the 18 centimetre strips together to form a bell shape for the body. Then take your 10 centimetre strip and form a circle for the head. Next, glue the head onto the body. Then take your 2 15 centimetre strips and glue the ends together to make teardrop shapes for the wings. Glue the wings onto the body. And finally, take your piece of ribbon or string, thread it through the head and tie a knot. Now if you don't want just a plain white angel, you could use coloured card, or you could add glitter to your white card or your coloured card. Enjoy making your angel.
And Mary, the mother of Jesus, the one chosen and favoured to give birth to God's Son. She is called the Queen of Heaven and wears a crown of stars. She was still ever so young and unsure, and Gabriel was the one who brought the message from God. Mary said, "How could it be?" But it was true, and at Christmas we remember she held the baby safely in her arms and shared her love. We all learned again that greatness and importance of people come not from money or from power, but from the love and the care that they share. And after the baby was born, the first people to know were the shepherds in the fields, looking after and caring for their sheep. And people remembered they called God their shepherd, and that David is the son of Jesse, a shepherd too. And the shepherds heard the angel singing, "Glory to God in the highest," at this wonderful birth. and they came to worship, because all generations were now safe. Magi came too, wise and wealthy. They came from faraway lands. They had read in the stars, this one would be born to rule with justice and bring peace to the world. They opened their treasure chests and bought grand with gifts with special meaning. Grand gold for a king, fragrant frankincense to worship God, and myrrh, a sad gift used when people have died. And they knelt at the crib in homage, knowing now that all generations are safe. All this for the birth of a baby born far away from his own home, but safely in the warm arms of his mother. A baby born to bring all God's family together. A baby born so that they would know God is with them. But also a baby born then so that we all would know now that God is with us, even now. For this baby's special name is Emmanuel, which means just that. God is with us now and with us forever. And so our Jesse tree is complete. And all the generations now are safe. As Godly Play remembers the family of God's people too, and reminds us that when old Abram was very old and full of years, he died and was buried with Sarah in a cave by the trees. Then Isaac and Rebekah had children, and their children had children, and those children had children. This went on for many thousands of years until your grandmothers and grandfathers had children, and then your mothers and fathers had children. Now you and we all are members of that great family of God, which has become as many as the stars in the sky and the grains of the sand, just as Abraham was promised.